Capital funding. Capital forum discussing on what investors, athletes, and others are looking for in a deal. Our moderator is Dr. Andy Ingram of NABHOOD, Evans Charles, Frontier Development and Hospitality Group, Irving Matthews, the Matthews Automotive Group, is your mic. All right, Dr. Andy Ingram.
Good afternoon.
It's on.
I'm on.
You on?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, let me have yours then.
Your clip.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm always curious that around lunchtime, we have about 200-300 people. At 8 o'clock in the morning, we have, except for Evans and Vinay and Irving, which is why they're probably so successful. They're always there. But this panel is interesting. We want to talk about a litany of issues in terms of, from Capital Forum, what investors, athletes, and others are looking for, and how to get investors. And I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves. If you haven't met them before, they'll be very interesting individuals that have done very, very well. Evans Charles.
Good morning, I believe. Yes, Evans Charles. I'm the founder and managing principal of Frontier Development and Hospitality Group based in D.C. Acquisition and development company that's been focused on hotels for the last 15 years.
My name is Vinay Patel. I just literally 30 minutes ago, I was in my bed watching TV and doing work, and then
Making money.
making money, and then here I am. And so if I look kind of drag, whatever.
That's from
you'll know
last
why.
night. That's nothing to be in bed.
But my name is Vinay Patel. I'm a past chair at AAHOA. And then I also have a bunch of hotels right outside of Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. Not in D.C. in itself, but in Northern Virginia.
I'm Irving Matthews. I'm president and CEO of the Matthews Automotive Group. After about 20 years in manufacturing, I decided that I wanted to get into my own business, utilize my entrepreneurial spirit. So I purchased an automobile dealership. That was 35 years ago. I currently own 4 dealerships, one in Florida, Georgia, and 2 in Oregon, and in the process of purchasing another one in Oregon. And I've just decided that I want to get out and expand my horizons here. So I'm now into the hotel business, or getting into it, I should say. So I just signed an agreement to build a new hotel, an Indigo Hotel in Florida.
And I think last month on a Sunday while you were traveling between Martha's Vineyard, you, the attorneys, and I spent with the IHG guys, which have been great. I don't know if Eric is here, but they've been great in trying to negotiate and have Urban as a great new hotelier. Evans, investors are always pitching ideas, and when an investor come to you, and entrepreneurs talk to you, what are typically investors looking for that you can share with people that are entrepreneurs that want to get into business?
You mean like just individual investors looking to get into hotel business?
Yeah, I mean, when entrepreneurs that pitch an idea, why would an investor take up the ideas that they bring as entrepreneurs?
Oh, got it. So first and foremost, there has to be a respect level of the person that's pitching the idea from a standpoint of understanding the business and really knowing what they're talking about and having having a level of confidence. Second thing is track record, right? People want to understand what have you done historically or so. And if you do not have the track record, then I would recommend partnering with someone that can solve for that gap. or so. Investors are obviously going to be interested in returns, obviously, but it's not just what you put on a paper. It's something that's defensible, something that's risk adjusted. When you have the ability to be very responsive to questions, and your investors understand that you've already assessed risk, I think that gives investors more confidence to invest in you or so. And then obviously your reputation, because when people check references and they want to know, how are you as a business partner? How are you to work with or so? Your reputation speaks for itself. And as how other people have had experiences with you would go a long way in people investing in you.
Vinay, you come from a community where in the Asian American community, people are always pitching ideas and want to get into the business. Do you see the same thing?
Look, the way I see it, and Evans, you taught me one thing, and as I said, we always learn from each other, right? And this is why you're at this conference here. And so I come here all the time. You may think, why do you go? It's because about learning, and you always learn. And one of the things that you taught me one time, I remember you were on stage, and he had said, hey, look, the basis that you get in at is important. And so when you pitch to investors, and when you go into the investor side, reputation matters, whether it be a lender, whether it be a brand, whether it be whatever site, and even municipalities. You go out there, you got to, either buy, build, or whatever. And so that's what really matters. And I think that's the biggest thing that we all need to worry about. And so you ask that question, hey, what is the difference? And it's because of the fact that, hey, look, you've got to have good reputation getting involved. And so if you're investing, then you look for that kind of guy. If you're doing the sponsorship, then you got to be that kind of guy. That's the difference there.
Stanley, in your case, you probably don't need any investors. Yeah.
Got all kinds of money. Huh?
Yeah. 4 dealerships. I mean, hell, you have to buy a new car every other year to keep up with all the trends. But Irving, I know that people will come and ask all the time. And one of the things I loved about when you were doing your Indigo, the people at IHG wanted you on their team. Why do you think that was so critical to have you on their team? And they went far beyond to get you there. So they saw something that Evans and Vinay just spoke about.
Well, I think the first thing, success breeds success. And I think when you are in business, and I've been in business for a long time, I was very successful in corporate America, and then a round of golf got me into the car business. So, and it was one of those.
A round of golf?
Yes.
Wow.
So what happened was I was playing, I was at a driving range hitting golf balls one night, and there was this guy from Ford Motor Company that was there. I introduced myself to him and started talking. And he said, well, we really need guys like you in this business. He said, in fact, let's play a round of golf when I'm back in town. So he did. He had a group of Ford guys with him. They invited me. We played golf. We sat in the bar after, and they kept saying, look, we need you in this business. I kept saying, no, I think I want to stay in manufacturing. And after about 5 no's and a couple of drinks, I said, okay, send me the application. So I got the application and filled it out and ended up getting into the business. And that was in 1991. I bought my first store. And since then, I've really done well in the business. I did something that a lot of people question because in fact, when I first went into the business, some of my friends said, you got to be out of your mind. I said, what do you mean? Have you read articles about how African-American dealers have been failing in the car business? I said, yeah, I have. Well, why are you doing this? I said, because I believe in me. And it starts here. You first have to believe in yourself before anyone else will. And with my success in the car business, I flew into, let me just share this with you. I'm in Florida with a Ford dealership. I have a Kia dealership in Georgia. My CPA called me one day and said, hey, I got the deal for you. I said, what are you talking about? He said, in Oregon, you need to come and look at these dealerships up here. In Oregon? Had never been to Oregon. I flew into Oregon that day, and that afternoon, I went into the dealership that he was talking about to take a look at it. They wanted to sell me a car, and I said, no, I'm just here. Where's your parts department? I need parts. So they showed me that. I walked around the dealership, looked in, I could see service, I could see the sales department, all that. Went into the parts department, bought me a cap and left. The next day, I'm meeting with the owner, having lunch with her. And we had lunch, talked about the business there. And after talking for a minute, she says, and much like other folk, she says, your personality, your demeanor and everything is very similar to mine. And she said, a lot of people want this store, but I want you to have it. So I'm saying, okay, what else do I know about Oregon, okay? And we cut the deal there that day. And it was because she wanted me to have it. Now I came into Indigo, and it's the same kind of thing. I think my personality kind of lends itself to that. But most importantly, I always say, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but nobody's going to outwork Irving. I'll be up early in the morning. I'll stay up late at night. My fiance will tell you, she goes to bed. I come to bed 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I'm up and I'm going. But I will get the results. And I think people see that when they look at my business and what I do. And I think you have to sell yourself, because nobody else can do that. And not only, one way you sell yourself is by results. And if you get them, that's going to yield the kind of things that we see here.
But Irving, you said something that's interesting. Be prepared. I tell young people, anybody, an opportunity presents itself when you least expect. And I have kids, and now I'm a grandfather. Boy, I didn't even know I'd be a grandfather this some time of the year. But what I see, and I want to ask Evans and Vinay this, I see a lot of people that have great ideas, but they're never prepared. They show up, they don't look the part, they're not sure, they can't answer questions. And short story, and I learned this a long time ago, I flew into Barbados one day on a Sunday, and I was supposed to speak on Monday. Stupid me, had a t-shirt on and a pair of shorts. My luggage didn't come. And everything is closed on Sunday. I have never, ever flown without a jacket since then, and be prepared in case something goes wrong. And sitting in the plane one day, I met a Jewish guy out of Brooklyn, and we started talking about, matter of fact, I had a magazine, Lodging Magazine open, and he asked me, in the hotel business? I said, yes. And he said, I'm in the real estate business. We started a discussion. The next day we had dinner in Fort Lauderdale, and he became an investor with us. And that's the key. Evans, how often have you ran into people that just weren't prepared? Vinay, that's a good question for you too. You know, they show up, they didn't give you that sort of confidence that you thought you'll be comfortable with. And I remember a case I can talk about, but we're not going to talk about it, where somebody approached me, they just weren't ready. They thought they were.
Yeah, I guess being on this side of pitching opportunities to investors for the majority of my career, when someone's pitching me something, in probably the first 5-10 minutes, I can assess if it's something that I even think I want to really dive into. And then I'll still give it a little bit more of an opportunity. And I could just tell by the questions that I ask if that person is truly on top of their game and truly understand what they're speaking about or so. So preparation is everything. And I just want to share one quick story. When I was doing an interview yesterday with Don Peebles, and I was speaking about how I read his book, and I was sitting in the seat that you guys are sitting in, and his book was talking about how he got in deals, and I didn't have the capital, which I'm sure is a barrier for a lot of people in the room. And it was a lesson I took from one of his deals. Early on, he had a relationship with the mayor of DC, and DC was willing to be a tenant in a building, and that's a 30-year guaranteed lease. And he had control of a building that he didn't have the capital to buy. So his partners had the money, he had the tenant. And when he was trying to team up with his partners, they actually tried to do an end around and take the deal from him because he didn't have capital. But the mayor said, I'm not doing the deal unless he stays in this deal. And that was the launching pad that got him into doing commercial real estate. And what that instilled in me was just someone who just got creative without the capital, but was prepared, built the relationship, obviously pitched an opportunity to the investors who came in without having the money. And that's the thing that really just stuck with me. And that was really how I got started. But that was the inspiration for me and being prepared.
Well, let me just add to that. Not only being prepared, but we're having this discussion with Don. And Don said something interesting that I don't even think Evans expected to come. And he said, I want to invest with you. I want to do business with you. I want to put money with you. As a matter of fact, he said, the stuff I'm doing, we can either do together or I can just push it to you. And he said that because of what Evans just said, being prepared. And it is so important. And Irving, nobody's going to outwork any of these guys that are successful. That's an asset in this business that you need to have. Vinay, you found the same thing?
No, I'll give you a quick, I've got countless stories. By the way, just real quick, two quick stories. One, even my front desk people, and this may sound creepy. It may sound really creepy here, but so when the front desk people, I say, guys, you have a arrivals list, Joe Patel is going to come or Andy Ingram is going to come, who's going to come. Google them. You have nothing else to do, but just to kind of know when they come in that you have some background. Now, more importantly, just on the flip side, I still remember I just had become a secretary at AAHOA, so I just got elected, and I was at the lodging conference, and I was with Sorensen from Marriott CEO, right? And so he's like, I said, hey, my name is Vinay Patel. He's the CEO of Marriott. And I'm like thinking, hey, what's going on here? So I said, my name is Vinay Patel. He's like, I know who you are. He knew exactly everything about me. And both those examples of the fact that they were both prepared, they knew who they're going to run into, they knew who we're going to see, and they knew everything about those people, because that's how you can kind of get that connection between the two. So, importance.
I think that's very important. And I've seen in many cases where I'm interviewing someone for a managerial position in a dealership, and they come in and they tell me all about my background. They've done their homework. Now, when I left corporate and went into the automobile business, I found that I was dealing with a totally different group of people, and I had to prepare differently. I started hiring people who would come in and tell me all the great things they did and show me numbers and do all those things. But I found I wasn't as successful as I was in manufacturing. I could tell you if they were going to succeed in manufacturing, and I started seeing some of these people fail. So I talked to one of the consultants we had, and he said to me, he said, the difference in this business and where you were, which, I needed to prepare better for these people, but he said, is those people are in the sales, in the sales. They sell themselves. Most of them, he said, can go out. They're very good at getting the job. They are very poor at doing the job. And so, it then drove me to do a lot more homework and preparation when it came to hiring these people, because that was the case. They were selling themselves to me. One of the things I did after my first dealership, and I got a second, then what I did was I actually got a team together and created my own book and pamphlet that I took with me when I went out to sell myself. Pictures of my dealership, accomplishments, where I came from, all these kinds of things. And it was amazing because I'd leave them with that, talk to them, but it gave them info after we left, after that they could use to look at Irving Matthews. They go to someone else, they could give it to the other person and say, boom, this is Irving Matthews. So you got to sell yourself. You've got to create situations where you can do that.
And part of the process is preparation. But also, I think being prepared, being genuine, and if you have that passion for the business, people can see that. I'm going to wrap this panel up, and I'm going to ask each panelist if they had to give some advice to people that they wanted to be successful, what would you tell that individual to focus on? Evans, I'm going to start with you.
I'm trying not to be repetitive, but education is the one thing. A lot of these things are cliche, but very few people truly execute on these things, right? So truly educating yourself. Your net worth, your network is your net worth, right? So really establishing relationships, following up with people.
That's it.
Wherever there's opportunity for you to do for folks, take advantage of those opportunities to establish relationships or so. Irving said that no one will outwork him. And I think that's a common mentality amongst entrepreneurs, because I feel the same way. So we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but what do you do with your 24 hours matters versus everyone else. I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of time scrolling on social media. That's valuable time that you can be educating yourself or growth or things of that nature or growing, right? So yeah, just ambition, relationships, education, and integrity. Just operating with integrity, because your reputation is everything, like I said a minute ago.
Vinay?
I don't know if I can say anything else. You said everything. I don't know what else. But I'll close two things here. And apart from, I think what you just said about the relationship matters. Even today, as I said, literally 30 minutes ago, maybe like an hour ago, I'm sitting in the room upstairs in my pajamas doing work. Andy calls me and says, hey, look, can you just kind of help out here? What I'm doing, I'm hustling because of a relationship I have with Andy, right? And that's what matters. And it happens at the banks as well. So if you're looking at a hotel deal to buying even brands to whatever, relationships matter. And so I think that's one of the key takeaways. And so I'm looking at the audience, and there's a lot of younger people here, and just kind of give you one quick one last takeaway apart from what Evan said, is that when you talk to people, when I see Evans, I mention his name. When I see Irvin, I mention his name. When I see Andy, I mention his name. When you see Joe Smith, I think that people love hearing your name, right? And then go back to the relationship comment, and you go back to that whole decision about, hey, how do you kind of connect? And so when you talk to people, especially some of the younger group, and I see a lot of younger people here, and what I would say is, hey, look, hey, Joe, or hey, Vinay. People love hearing their names. I love hearing my name. I mean, when I talk to people, hey, Vinay, thank you very much, or Mr. Patel, or whatever. And so I think that from a younger perspective, when you communicate with people that you meet for the first time, especially at these kind of conferences, you take advantage of it and you communicate properly in that way. So sorry, I want to talk right.
That's okay, Evan.
Yeah, I would add, prepare yourself. And one of the things that I found when I first learned the automobile business, and somebody said earlier in the session, go in and learn the jobs and learn things about the hotel business and so forth. I can tell you, when I first trained in an automobile dealership, I'd go in there and everybody want to just tell you how to do the job and expect you to leave. And I'd always say, I'm not going until I do the job. I remember when I went into parts one day and I got a phone call. The customer wanted a part, and trying to look this part up, I refused to give it to somebody else. It took me about 30 minutes to find this part, but every couple of minutes or 10 minutes or so, I'd say, sir, I'm still looking for this part. I'll get it for you in a minute, and kept him there. But I learned how to do it. I went into the dealership, and I remember one of my managers saying to me, he said, boss, I've worked for guys that's been in this business 30 years. And he said, you know more about it than they do. Great compliment. You have to make sure that you understand and you know what you expect of people. Because if you can't do it, how are you you can't control what you don't know. which is bottom line. And I think, it's talking about the other thing for the young folk out there. When you're talking to people, have a firm grip and look them in the eyes. How many times, you sit talking, they're not going to be impressed with you. If you can't look them in the eye and talk directly to them and, find out as much, ask great questions, come loaded with good questions to give you more knowledge of what they're doing, their business and everything else.
You've got to be in the room. You've got to be prepared. And what we do at NABHOOD is we put people in the room where you normally wouldn't be able to get into. Somebody wanted to meet Warren Thompson, we put him in the room. You heard Kevin say earlier he had sent Warren an email, but Warren never responded. You got 100 things to do, but be in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great discussion. I hope you've gotten something from it. Help me thanking the panelists for the job that they've done this morning. Thank you, guys.
That was our Capital Forum discussion on what investors, athletes, and others are looking for in a deal. Is it great returns? Thanks to our moderator, Dr. Andy Ingram, founder and president of NABHOOD, our panelists, Evans Charles, president and CEO of Frontier Development and Hospitality Group, Vinay Patel, president and CEO of Fairbrook Hotels and past chairman of AAHOA, and Irving Matthews, president and CEO of the Matthews Automotive Group and hotel investor. Our next session begins shortly. It is a session on growing the Caribbean hospitality and investment market, working with industries and governments. There are opportunities in the Caribbean, and attracting hospitality investment and working with governments can make the partnership much easier. Our moderator today is Mr. Jerry Butler. He is the chairman of the Butler Investment Group. Our panelists are Felicia Woods Hanna, Director of Investments, Bahamas Investment Authority and Office of the Prime Minister. Sanavnik Destang, President of CHTA, the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, and Executive Director of Bay Gardens Resorts in St. Lucia. He's also joined by Angela Musgrove, President of Invest Turks and Caicos, and Brian Baumler, CEO of Baumler Group of Companies, Karula Mar Resort in Andros Island, Bahamas. So panelists, please head to the back so you can get your microphones, and we'll be starting shortly. Please ensure that you visit our corporate suites, and today is a great trade show day with lots of exhibitors for you to get up close and personal with opportunities available for investors, developers, and hoteliers. In our corporate suites, we have Choice Hotels in Orchid A, Marriott International in Orchid B, Hilton in Orchid C, U.S. Virgin Islands in Orchid D, and the Bahamas in Gardenia B. So please ensure that you meet those representatives and find out more about doing business in those destinations. Our trade show opens at 11:15, so that is your opportunity. We also have some sessions happening after that trade show before we have lunch. Some of those sessions include building a successful development and ownership team, increasing media exposure, public and private partnerships, extended stay. That will be followed by our NABHOOD International Luncheon brought to you by Marriott International.